My name is Mark Barish. I'm CMO at Jumio, and on behalf of all of my colleagues in the room here today, in fact, we're all wearing these really nifty Jumio green pocket squares. If you guys could stand up and say hello, thank you. Thank you very much, and our colleagues not present today, we welcome you to this special lunch presentation. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about some of the challenges that mobile wallets have faced, some things that are familiar to you and some things that are not. And then we're going to present to you a preview of what Jumio is going to be launching that we believe will help move the ball forward in a new and exciting way. We're joined today by three very distinguished tech entrepreneurs who will be joining us in a panel very shortly. Eduardo Saverin is Facebook co-founder and currently serves as a Jumio director on our board of directors. After founding Facebook, almost 10 years ago, he's been involved in investing in a number of high-tech companies and playing active roles on those boards. Daniel Mattis is Jumio founder and CEO. And prior to Jumio, he founded a company called Jaja, which is a voice-over IP company that he sold to Telefonica in 2009. And then he founded Jumio in 2010. Mike Orlando is Chief Sales Officer at Jumio, and prior to joining Jumio, about a year ago, he was Senior Vice President at CyberSource, where he played a key role in driving the $2 billion acquisition of CyberSource by Visa. And with that, I'm going to ask our distinguished panelists to come on in, and please join me in a warm welcome. Thank you. So Eduardo, I'm gonna start with you. So Facebook is almost 10 years old. 10 years ago, you co-founded the company, and today, about 15% of humanity, 15% of planet Earth uses Facebook. How does that feel? And are you surprised by the success and ubiquity that you and your colleagues achieved?
I'm absolutely surprised, and actually, my 21-year-old self back in college would never have imagined that especially this company would have had this type of wide reach. Because when we started the product, we actually just developed it for ourselves. We were college students at the time, and we just wanted to make our experience better. We wanted to create a system where we could find other students to create study guides, to network for internships and jobs. It was just something for our own selves. And it happened to be that through time, it expanded so that across all geographies, all languages, all religions, cultural differences, everyone is using this. And no way would we have imagined that that would take place and happen. And it's frankly very, very humbling. But beyond just the usage across the world, it's the real impact that it has on people. It's that it really has, in some ways, democratized voice. It's no longer about top-down, a few people can speak to the world. Now, one random individual can put out an idea to everyone out there. It also democratized innovation. It really used itself as a springboard for other companies to acquire users quickly, to innovate quickly as well. And there's a lot of things that happen, but would I have imagined this? Never. Not even close.
So I've been involved in a number of startups, and I know there's inevitable ups and downs. Can you think back on some of those ups and down stories back in the early days?
Absolutely. A startup is all-encompassing in life in every way. It's really sort of a deep relationship 24/7, and you certainly have ups and downs with the people you work with the consumers that use your product, with pretty much everything. And just as an example, with the product side of things, with Facebook, one of the most interesting product evolutions in the site and up and down was when they launched a newsfeed. Initially, the homepage was a static page that just had links to different sections of the website, be it your messages or pokes that you received. We then launched a newsfeed, and about 10% of the user base at that time actually revolted actively. I think actually some individuals were in front of the office with signs, and it's about 10% of the user base, which is incredible. And the interesting thing is that the reason the protest was so successful was because of the newsfeed itself. And this is an example of clearly an up and down. And that's what happens all the time, is you're always innovating, you're making mistakes all the time, because that's part of product innovation. It's part of learning your consumers as well. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, fail fast is the mantra.
Of course.
I specialize in the first half of that statement. So Daniel, you founded Jaja some years ago, and when I think about Jaja as a VoIP company, voice over IP company, and Jumio involved in authentication of people and transactions, other than the fact that both are 5 letters and start with the letter J, what's the common thread?
Well, if you think about it, voice over IP is, first of all, a digital good, and as such, easy tradable. And second, internet telephony is a commodity. Everybody needs telephony, so it's potentially really attractive for especially credit card fraud. So what these criminal organizations would do, they would, for instance, take a stack of 10,000 stolen credit cards, would create 10,000 Skype accounts, upload $100 each, and sell the login data to these accounts for like $10 in cash somewhere in Afghanistan. And we were having a hard time fighting this fraud, especially with all our voice over IP providers we were serving, like Yahoo Messenger, etc. And we eventually got it under control with a chargeback ratio of like 0.2%. But the downside was we had to pay a high price for it. Because the more secure you make it for the merchant, and the more security layers you add on top, like verification phone calls, behavioral analysis, you name it, the more users you lose, right? And I always like this example because in the offline world, the credit card payment, if you take like Starbucks, for instance, if you go to the Starbucks coffee place and you buy a cappuccino, for instance, you just swipe your card, you don't even have to sign, you get your coffee. That's a frictionless, seamless, great way of paying. If you would apply what we did, or what the online merchants these days are doing, in the offline world, you would go to Starbucks and say, can I have please a coffee? You would say, wait a second. Can you please fill in that form? What was your zip code again? And let's do a verification phone call. You would not sell a single cup of coffee. Mm-hmm. And with this problem in mind, I was looking for solutions how to make also online purchases as secure, easy, and fast as paying at the Starbucks, for instance, in the offline world. And that was basically the starting point for getting this company off the ground in 2010.
So the notion is that thinking about fraud and how it impacts consumer efficiency and processes has to be front center in companies' minds, transactional companies' minds, like all of you sitting out there, not an afterthought. That
right.
Seems to be a central idea of yours. Eduardo, as a Jumio board member and a active board member at other companies, would you be able to tell us a little bit about your investment thesis? How do you think about these things? What attracted you to Jumio 2 years ago?
No, absolutely. So I'm looking really for companies that have a real impact on the world. And it happens to be that, right, as we were talking before with Facebook, we built a product for ourselves at the time, but it was for a very human need. We like to connect with others. We don't like to be isolated in a room. If I was inside a cave all day and never saw anyone, I wouldn't be a happy person. It happens to be also that I don't like making everything that I eat for myself, everything that I use for myself. We like to transact with others, be it bartering earlier in life, human history to now transacting. So that's a very important necessity in our lives, definitely for me. And what Jumio really is doing, and one of the reasons that I believe in you guys, and I believe that this is a truly important innovation for all of us, for humanity, is that the same way Facebook developed the first at large scale real name face network in the world, we have only information so deep. We have a lot, but we only have information so deep as to social interaction, as to what you're interested in, as to what you watch. But while that can be a very long list, when you're actually transacting real money, you need a lot more. So in the same way that the social graph and the real name identity was very innovative and changing for the tech world with Facebook, Jumio is doing that for the web in terms of transactions and transactional economy. Right, the internet started anonymous with Tim Berners-Lee 25 plus years ago. I definitely was too young to really use it at that time. And it was always an anonymous place. And now it's from anonymous to identified. We all know who we are when we use the web. And it's also from passive to active. And part of being active is transact. So you need Jumio. You need to be able to push forward transaction economy on the web, period, on different devices.
With authentication,
of
with
course.
The confidence that people are real.
Of course.
Yeah, that's a very important point. Fraud is measured in the billions in every country that has internet using population. And we're all concerned about fraud. There's so many financial services institutions here today. Daniel, can you comment a little bit about how you think about combating fraud and how to create the right trade-offs with consumers so that we don't scare them away?
So I think two things are really important. First of all, we need to ensure that the enrollment process into these networks is very seamless and very easy for the user. And on the other hand, it's also very, very secure. Because the network that we are building, right, is only as good as the credentials on file. So I'll give you an example. So in the online world and also in the mobile world, one of the hottest trends these days is collaborative consumption. You share your flat, you share your bicycle, you share your car, right? It actually started off even with eBay, is almost some sort of thing, right, where I buy and sell something. And became more and more important, and there were many cases where these collaborative consumption marketplaces have been abused. And they figured out, wait a second, we're going to make this a more secure and more safe place for our participants. And if you look at what like an Airbnb is doing, or Twitter recently launched, and all other examples, they're all putting quite an effort into proving that if I'm making a transaction with you, that you know it's me and I know it's you, and it's a safe place.
That's the key. And as we think about mobile wallets, I think it's fair to say that the adoption of mobile wallets to date is perhaps under expectation, and we've encountered a lot of impediments. If I could throw this to the panel as a whole, what do you think the issues are that have stymied the growth of mobile wallets?
I think generally, if you think about consumers, they haven't really figured out that they need one yet. And even for those who are players in the wallet space, who have kind of both sides of the equation figured out, you know, they're the consumers and the merchants. Look at the card schemes that have both, right, that could attract them. They still haven't been able to get the consumers to say, yep, I really need it. And why? Because for most people, their credit card works, right? Other ways of identifying themselves kind of work. It's cumbersome, and until someone kind of makes a system, an infrastructure play in which we can all easily participate, I think that's really going to hold it back, because today most of the wallets are, for the most part, closed looped as well. So I have very limited utility when I have one.
Well, they certainly, when we talk about mobile wallets, the nomenclature suggests that it's a wallet, but in fact it's usually a payment app for the most part. And as we all think about the wallets that we're holding in our pockets or purses today, they do a whole lot more than payments. So perhaps it's that narrowness of the functionality that's holding people back. Are there any other things that you guys want to add on there?
Yeah, meaning and clearly with something like a wallet, a consumer is going to be very careful to who they give their financial information to, their identity information, and they want to make sure that the utility is there to do so. And what happens today is all these different wallets, and in a lot of cases, websites and different apps that don't even call themselves wallets are wallets. They are not providing the true value proposition to the end user. They're all segmented. If you sign up for one wallet, doesn't mean you can transact everywhere. As an example, if I am in a travel website and I sign up for that profile, can I use that sign-up information and that payment information somewhere else? And me as a user, I don't remember my passwords. I probably reuse it all the time, which is unsafe by itself. I want it all to be sort of interconnected, right? If I pick up my phone and I make a phone call and I have an AT&T phone, I want to be able to reach someone in T-Mobile as well. It's the powers in the network. And one of the things with wallets right now is they're all segmented. And it goes to the same argument with a phone. Would you have one right now if you could only call people on your network? No. And wallets, I think part of the reason is users don't see the extent of the value proposition yet. But I think Daniel and the Jumio team will be part of the ecosystem showing that in the long term by helping others do that.
Well, there certainly have been some successes. Starbucks is one where even though it's usable only at the Starbucks locations, it has achieved a fair amount of adoption by consumers, and it's a nice, slick process. So I think that is a good sign that there is a real desire on consumers' parts to move to the next level, but we haven't really gotten there yet. That seems to be a big issue. And security, as you point out, is at the heart of things. So Daniel, you know.
I think basically to your point, most of the successful wallet examples are basically driven by the merchants. And you brought up the Starbucks example, for instance. That's a single-purpose wallet driven by Starbucks, right? It's not Starbucks utilizing 5 different wallets and all plugging them in, because in reality, to reach a significant chunk of users who really have these wallets also installed and are willing to have another account, etc., is a hurdle. And I believe that wallets in the future need to be driven by the merchants rather than by some other providers. Mm-hmm. And we get to this in a second.
Well, very good. We could go on like this for an hour, but we don't have that much time. So at this point, I would like to turn it over to Daniel, who has a presentation to show you where we are going in order to solve some of the issues that we addressed here today.